and welcome from the great state of Utah. I am fully enjoying my summer vacation by visiting my parents and their home near Park City, Utah. And so I am filming out on the back deck this morning, so you can see they have a pretty awesome view of the mountains, and it's just a really gorgeous, slightly windy, beautiful day. So we are discussing the Daily 5, Chapter 3 for implementation in kindergarten to go along with the book study that I have been doing. So I'm going to jump right in with the questions or things to think about for Chapter 3. So the first thing to think about while reading Chapter 3 was where I would establish a place for brain and body breaks in the classroom. And this was really a gathering place. And so I'm very fortunate that I have quite a large carpeted area in my classroom, and this year I'm actually going to be using 2 different spaces. In the past, I've had one large space in front of a whiteboard, and this year my classroom is being kind of rearranged and restructured, and the smartboard is being moved so that it is in a more accessible place and the students can actually sit in front of it. So this year I will have a gathering space in front of the smartboard as well as in front of my whiteboard, and then I'll probably put the easel somewhere in between the two. What I'm thinking right now is that most of our instructional time will be in front of the smartboard, and including Daily 5, like focus lessons. And then the smartboard will be more just for, or excuse me, the whiteboard will be more for calendar and morning meeting. I don't have special names for them, but I know that it will be important to establish 2 distinct names. Like I can't just say, come to the meeting rug, like I used to do, or come to the carpet, because obviously the kids sit on the carpet in front of the smartboard, and they also sit in front of the carpet for the whiteboard, so that won't work. Anyways, number 2, how am I going to develop the concept of good fit books? And I absolutely love how the sisters have done this by using the example of the shoes. And I've borrowed shoes from my boyfriend, and the kids love seeing me clump around in shoes, and we've used different of my dress shoes, so, high heels that they say, oh, you'd wear those to a party, and, regular ballet flats, which I normally wear to school every day, and they say you wear those to school, and then we have my running shoes. And so the kids really get into the idea that, we have different shoes for different purposes, and we have different interests. So, I don't have soccer cleats because I don't play soccer, but, they might have soccer cleats because they play soccer. And then that transfers well to books. My first graders also really understood the idea of the size of the shoe or the reading level of the book. So how many words they can actually read on a page is also different from child to child, in the same way that, a child with a larger shoe isn't going to wear, the shortest, smallest kid in the class's shoe, because that wouldn't be a good fit. And first graders really got that. I didn't see that transfer as much with my kindergartners this past year. So that's something I'll definitely continue to work on with them, is how to make sure that they really understand that because a book is a good fit for one friend, it might not necessarily be a good fit for them. I really also liked how Tammy from Live, Love, Laugh, something like that, Every Day in Kindergarten, used the Goldilocks books. I think I will also try doing that, because the students are already familiar with the story of Goldilocks and the 3 bears, and how the porridge that Goldilocks found was just right. And then, of course, with the chair and the bed, and that will also help them connect to what is just right for them. So number 3, creating anchor charts in the classroom with students. How will these be visual in the room? Where will you store them? And what about small spaces? So I never know where to keep these. Usually what happens is they hang on my easel until we're ready to do our next I independent chart, and then I put that one up on top of the other one. And sometimes, I'll pull them out and I'll tape them up on the whiteboard so the students can see, but it's not the most effective way, because then they just get pasted on top of one another, and there's they're not accessible to be reading. So my classroom library is going to be moved this year from one corner of the classroom to another that actually has more counter space where I can put book boxes and book bins. So the this area is beneath several windows which have blinds. So I'm actually going to use clothespins to hang up my anchor charts up on the blinds. And this worked really well in the past for just other types of anchor charts or, procedural type charts and things like that. Okay, number 4. Short, repeated intervals of independent practice and setting up book boxes. How are you going to keep track of stamina? So building stamina has to go really slowly. And I know the sisters say start off with 3 minutes, but I don't even do that. Instead of doing a timer, I do a stopwatch. So that way we just read until I see kids who are off task or they're doing off task behaviors. And then I call them back to the rug for like a check-in. So if it's only 45 seconds, that's fine. And then I also was reading on another blog, and I'm sorry, I don't remember whose it was, but they were saying, also, the kids can't keep track of time at this age, so they don't really know if they've made it to 3 minutes or not. So you can say, if it's 2.5 minutes or even just 2 minutes, you can say, you guys made it to 3 minutes. That was awesome. And, just to keep encouraging them. Then what will you use for book boxes? So I used the really large size Ziploc bags this past school year, and they held the books pretty well. They would sometimes rip, but I would just tape them with shipping tape, and that worked. But they're super noisy, and they crinkle, and they're really loud. And so with me having 32 kindergartners all grabbing their book bags at the same time, trying to sit down and get started really quietly with their read to self or read to someone, it did not work. And I shouldn't say it didn't work. It wasn't ideal. So this year I'd like to try actually using like magazine boxes or ice cube trays. I've heard, or not the trays, but the ice cube bin things. I've heard people say can work really well. And then somebody told me that IKEA has the cardboard magazine boxes in packs that are really affordable. So I think I'm going to do that and see how that goes, at least for the beginning of the year. And then what are you going to put in those book boxes on the first day of school? So I have a pretty good collection of leveled readers for my current Houghton Mifflin Journeys textbook series. And then I also have a lot of phonics and sight word based little readers from other textbook series that I've collected. I also have a number of reproducible books that are also phonics based or sight word based. So I'm just going to be digging all those out, printing out lots of little reproducible books like that, and putting those in the book boxes for the beginning of the year. I read on the sisters' website that it's fine to do 10 to 15 books with the really little kids who are very, very emergent readers and have really small, short books. Because obviously if we want them to stay engaged for a long amount of time, they aren't reading all the words necessarily, that we need to have lots of materials for them to be looking at. Number 5, calm signals and check-in procedures. Do you already have a signal, and how do you handle check-ins? So I have one of those just traditional desk bells that I kind of tap lightly and say, all right, come back to the meeting rug. And sometimes I would tell them, like, leave your book bag where you are. We're going to read again. We're just going to do a quick check-in. And so the students did pretty well with that, but then I also saw that Tammy had found kind of like song chimes that are like gentler, quieter like noise, so that it doesn't startle kids as they're doing all their good reading. So I would like to find those and order those for the school year. Number 6, using the correct model, incorrect model approach for demonstrating appropriate behaviors. Will you keep track of inappropriate behaviors? If they are not doing what is expected, then they're calling out for attention. What other ways can you give them some extra attention so they can be more independent during Daily 5? So my students absolutely love doing the correct model, incorrect model. Everyone always wanted to model it, whether they were doing the correct model or the incorrect one. And what was so funny is when they would do the incorrect model, they would no one could ever be really loud, which was so hysterical because obviously they could be really loud in the class at any given time. But then once they were up in front of everybody else, they didn't know how to use like a regular loud voice with their friends. Or instead of like just switching seats to show, what moving around during independent reading looks like, they would like run around the room real quick, which was funny because no one ever did that. But it was so fun for them to get up in front of the class, to kind of have that time for showing off and getting extra attention. So I really tried to target the students who had more trouble staying focused and staying on task during the Daily 5, and that seemed to help them. I never really had major problematic behaviors, especially with, I didn't have anyone bothering anyone else. If anything, it was just that they weren't reading the whole time and they weren't focused the whole time. And obviously, this is something that I want to correct because they're not becoming better readers if they aren't reading the whole time. But at the same time, they weren't bugging anyone else. So it was easy for me to kind of say, like, oh, will you come sit over here by me? Or, oh, I found a perfect learning spot for you. And then kind of directing them based on that. So that is all I have for you for Daily 5, Chapter 3. But I will be back shortly with the Daily 5, Chapter 4, Read to Self. So thanks for joining me, and have a great day, everybody. Bye.